great to be with the veterans today on the last day of campaigning before Election Day. It feels good to have you guys having my back at this moment. I know the character that you represent. I know the men and women around Missouri that stand with you as veterans, and I know how much you care about this country. And so it's terrific to have you here. I've got to tell you that it's also great because we're in Columbia, and many of you know I spent 4th grade through law school here at Russell Boulevard, West Junior, and Hickman High. And my dad was a World War II veteran, and my respect and work ethic, my respect for veterans and my work ethic comes directly from my father. So it's great that you're here today in Columbia. I think that it's really important that we remember that this campaign is about issues. It's just not about they stink, he stinks, she stinks. It's about what you get done and how you get that work done. And I think my work on veterans is a really good example of how I get things done. That long list of accomplishments that occurred for veterans during my time in the Senate, it was because I reached across the aisle and listened to my Republican colleagues and asked them for help and said, will you help me get the Arla-Harrell Act passed? Will you help me increase the mileage reimbursement for veterans that live in rural communities? And that's how we accomplish things. We don't accomplish much just by saying the other side stinks. And so I think it's really fitting today that the veterans are here so I can be reminded that the work gets done when you listen and try to work with everybody, regardless of what letter is behind their name. I will say this, to mar my positive tone today, I will say this. I'm not aware of there ever being someone running for the United States Senate in Missouri that would have a campaign website that would never have the word veteran on it. Josh Hawley has managed to get through this entire campaign without once talking about veterans and the importance of taking care of veterans and the challenges that veterans face, and that this is an ongoing work in progress. We've made progress, but we still have things to do. We still have problems that must be cleared up. There are still way too many veterans that can't get the specialist care as soon as they need. We still have way too many veterans that are falling through the cracks in terms of mental health care. We still have way too many veterans who are underemployed, who are not being able to work at their fullest capacity because their employers are not taking their military experience into account as they would if it was a traditional resume. So I'm anxious to get at some of that to-do list. I'm anxious, we've gotten a lot of them done, but there's more work to do, and I'm anxious to do it. I would say, in terms of the election tomorrow, I want everybody to realize how close this election is. You know, the polling, forget about the polling. Trust me, it's close. It is very, very close. And that means that a handful of votes could make a difference. You don't have to have every vote. You just have to have one more than the other guy, right? So we've got to make sure that in the next less than 48 hours now, when I started early this morning, it was close to that. But now it's really a lot less than 48 hours. That everyone, if you can volunteer, we still need shifts covered between now and 7 o'clock tomorrow night. If you haven't called that cousin that you haven't talked to in a year that lives down in southwest Missouri, if you haven't called that aunt that you forgot to send a note to on her birthday, if you haven't talked to your college roommate that lives up in Maryville, tonight's the night that you need to get on the phone and not text and not just Facebook, but actually call people you know and talk to them about this election. There are issues on the ballot. There's 2 names, but the main issues on the ballot. Let's start with looking after veterans, health care, getting dark money out of politics, and workers' rights.